What's up, everybody?
Oh, are we live?
We are live. We're live on ScreenFlowLive. And today, I'm Lucas, by the way.
I'm Abdul,
And
as you know.
And today on ScreenFlowLive, we're going over annotations and text boxes and how to use them in your ScreenFlow documents. So stay tuned. That's what today's show is about. All right, we're back here. That was a well-rehearsed opening to the show.
It was not rehearsed at all.
No mistakes made whatsoever. But yeah, for those of you who are already here, as you know, every week or every month, the first Wednesday of the month, 2:30, which was a minute or two ago, we do ScreenFlow Live. And we've been going through the Properties tab in ScreenFlow. We've done video actions, audio actions, screen recording properties, callouts, those things. Today we're talking about two different sections just because they're not the most complicated of sections. There's not a whole bunch of stuff to change, but they are annotations and text. So if we can jump into ScreenFlow real fast, I'm going to show you exactly which one we are talking about. If I scroll in all the way up here to the Properties tab, we are focusing on this one, annotations, and this one, text. And before we get started, the first thing I really want to point out is that there is a little bit of inconsistency with this button per tab. So if we were to take a piece of media, let's just find, let's go in here and grab a picture. Oh, we've been using this a lot lately, the candy corn. If we pull this into our document, you can see that it has a 10-second duration. It's just an image down here in our timeline. Make this one a little bit bigger. It's so hard with this crazy blown up mouse size. I can't click that button. Anyways, if we were to add a video action to this, we would click on it and click video action. And we have this little keyframe. We went over this in a different one. Now, that works the same with audio and callouts, but when you're working with annotations or text boxes, we actually create an entire new piece of media, not just an action that goes on to another piece of media. So if I add a text box, you can see down here in the timeline, I now have a new text box, a new piece of media that can be manipulated in any way. And the same goes for annotations up here. When I add a new annotation, I have to give it a value to have it stay in the timeline, but now I have this piece of media. So it's a very big distinction between adding an action to a piece of media or creating an entirely new piece of media with a text box or an annotation. So with that in mind, let's get into it. Let's start with annotations. Abdul, you want to go with annotations first?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously.
I'm glad you said yes.
That was a very strong tentative maybe. So yeah, annotations, obviously they're used to sort of highlight small elements on your overall presentation. If there's something that you absolutely, don't want people to miss or think maybe would be vague in a conversation, these things can certainly help to highlight those.
Could it also be the complete opposite of that? And if there's something you want them to not see, you could cover it with annotation.
This is certainly true as well. So thank you for pointing that out.
You're welcome. I like to think about the negative.
That's why we have two perspectives,
exactly.
The negative.
You the positive,
such
the negative.
a negative person. So, yeah, in that sense, it could certainly be used to cover up sensitive information if you don't want to use a call-out with the blur. Or if you need it, it's because the blur can't follow pixels. So if you have moving text, annotations can come in handy because you can make them a little more blocky, yada, yada, yada. However, what we would hope annotations are used for is just to kind of highlight maybe key points in like a bullet point situation, because we don't really have the bullet point view in here. It's not really a word processor per se. So these are kind of things that are workarounds that help out with those situations as well. Give a little pizzazz to your overall presentation. Pizzazz. And so if we wanted to add, say, a circle around this candy corn, which looks so delicious right now. I haven't had dessert yet, so we would first need to add an annotation. Now, a lot of people, so I work in support, and a lot of people come to me with my color option is broken on annotations. And so a lot of people want to set the color first. I'm clicking right now to like a degree of nobody should ever click that much. And you cannot actually change the color until you've added an annotation. A little quirky, I know, but that's how this works.
It's actually kind of nice to some extent because you can see the image that you've already created, the annotation you've already created, and then change the color so you know exactly what it's going to look like once you choose that color.
That's true. That's a good point. Way to turn that negative into a positive.
Yes,
that
Abdul, that's what I was looking
progress.
for.
5 minutes, and this guy's changed his whole demeanor. So that's pretty cool. See, ScreenFlow is a real togetherness piece of software. So what we do is we add our annotation. Now, if I happen to click out of that on accident, oh wait, I still can't change it. Abdul told me I could do that. What the heck? So we have to actually, click on the annotation itself in the timeline, or you can just click on the annotation up in the canvas to activate the color option.
Now here's the third time. Wait a second, go back because this is very important as well. That was the third time that you couldn't actually hit that button. So you can't hit it before you've created it. You can't hit it when it's not selected. When you select it the first time, you still can't hit it. And that is because there's two different states of interacting with an annotation. When you have this little center point here, let's zoom in on it. See that little center point? That shows you that you're moving it as an object in the timeline, just like any other piece of media. But when you click it again, you lose that and you get the boxes on the side. Now you're adjusting the actual parameters of that annotation. So there's two different states, and you have to be in this one in order to adjust the things over here in the Properties tab.
Which is also known as Edit State.
Edit State.
There you go.
Did not know.
So now that we are in Edit State, thank you, Lucas.
You're welcome.
We can, look at that.
What a beautiful
Change
thing.
This to green, to red, to purple, back to blue, and anything in between. So we're going to go with maybe a color picker option and select that nice candy corn
mirror the orange. I like it.
Shazam. And that is really annotations in a nutshell. Just kidding.
That's the extent of it. Time to go home.
You can also set the opacity if you want it to be somewhat translucent, or the thickness that looks a little too bold. You can really sharpen that up. Ooh, that looks slick. So these are all things you can accomplish. Now you can select and set multiple annotations. Whoops. While we're in that mode. Sorry.
Switch to edit mode.
Switch to edit mode. And anyway, so we won't talk about what
we'll
just
get
happened
into
there.
that.
So that's really kind of annotations, obviously, in a nutshell. We can add a shadow to that. We can add an outline. So if we
outline looks a little funky because the outline is thicker than the thickness of the annotation.
So if you want to give it some dynamics, there are some options here. These endpoints would maintain relevance when you're dealing with arrows and lines. So if you, well, let's add an arrow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's do that. Ooh, look at that! I like how it animates the arrow with the outline already. That was pretty cool.
And these can obviously be moved around, or multiple things can be added at once. So let's click out of here and go into edit mode. Now we can find that arrow, move it around to our heart's content.
There is one thing that I wanted to point out, is specifically with the. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please do.
So,
this is the most.
So I'm going to create a whole new one just so we can get out of that mumbo jumbo there. So if I'm going to click on the circle, sometimes it's hard to really dial in. Like, is that the perfect circle? Is that a perfect circle? How do you know how to create the perfect circle? What you can do is press Shift, and now no matter what I do, it's going to lock into place the aspect ratio of that perfect circle. So I can't even make an oval. So if I want to make sure I'm really doing everything exactly right, pressing and holding Shift locks the aspect ratio. I can click on this again, click out of it, click on it. Now I can move it around and put my perfect circle right over the Halloween candy. which is
Boom.
what ScreenFlow is made for. Perfect circles over candy corn.
Which is also the name of our band.
Really good band, as a matter of fact. Let's click on this and let's check out these different endpoints too, because I think they're pretty rad. We've got the arrow on one side. I think this one's cool. It's hard to see in the UI here what this last one is, but when I click on it, you'll see that it gives it a little indentation in the back of the arrow. So if you are doing things like, actually, let's see, can I?
Could
There
give you
we
like
go.
a banner effect if it was just a line minus the arrow.
Oh, by the way, the shift works here as well for right angles and 45-degree angles. You can see how it's jumping between those degrees. So instead of keeping the perfect ratio of a circle, it's keeping the perfect 45 or 90-degree angle. But this is really good if you want to do things like Abdul was saying earlier, make like an outline. And now I can, copy and paste these and create a whole bunch of different lines. This is getting a little bit busy here.
It is a little bit busy, yes.
That's the idea. And really, guys, that is annotations. Like, there's not a ton more to it. From what I can remember. We went through all of these. The only difference between some of these, like the arrow starts as an arrow, whereas the line starts as a line, but you can just add an arrow endpoint to it, so it's pretty much the same thing. This square will be filled in completely. So that's what we were talking about, if maybe you want to blur out something, but not use a blur, but just like block it out or something. You can use this. The square comes in, does the same thing, and you will get the perfect square if you use shift. It's just not full of things. And yeah, that's it. The circle at the end.
Bam.
So by the way, guys, if any of you have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the comments. I don't see any in there at the moment, which is totally acceptable. But speaking of ScreenFlow questions and answers, just to let you know, I am doing a webinar tomorrow morning where I'm just going to be in here for an hour answering people's questions. It starts at 11. I think the link is in the comments here, and we're just, any question you can throw at us, we're going to do our best to answer it for you, just because people tend to have a lot of questions when it comes to ScreenFlow.
And I won't be there, but we will have one of our QA guys who is awesome monitoring those questions.
That's
as well.
going to be Neil, I believe.
That will be
Neil
Neil.
will be there. All right, text boxes, you take it away, because I end up talking too much anyways.
Yeah, well, text boxes, although self-explanatory, we will explain them to some extent. So, this is obviously used to supplement something that you're discussing or, want to point out, give some information, maybe a website, please see www.lucasisawesome.com. That's not a real website.
I really wish it was. Just had a picture of my face, and that's it.
So yeah, text boxes, pretty traditional, pretty standard. We basically use the OS's text properties to, bring these into ScreenFlow. So it is just as simple as adding an annotation. Obviously, click on the proper text icon in the properties or inspector pane panel window. And then you would need to obviously add a text box by using the plus symbol there. This can be moved around. And we can change this text to say Lucas. Well, I won't say what I wanted to say there, right? And so we can come in here. We can change the the fill color, which is currently white.
And the fill color is at this point referencing the color of the letters itself, the text itself.
Right. What is that text filled with? So if that's confusing, we apologize. But so yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory as well. You can variate that level of green, orange, red, etc., etc. And we can go with a background, which is what you see, this sort of gray, dark gray area back here. So let's highlight that, and let's remove the background. So look how clean that is.
Yeah, it's
Look,
clean,
candy
but
corn.
it's hard to see, though.
It is hard to see. What if we change that to something easier to see?
I think it's a great idea. I was having trouble just looking at it.
And Shazam. So
Lucas and candy corn.
Lucas equals candy corn. So that is that. We can also obviously go and change the size and, the orientation, whether it's justified. That is working out.
Bold and italic.
Yes. And we have a variety of fonts to choose from as well. So those are the normal sort of things we can do. We can increase the margin here. Whoops.
You have to add the backdrop first.
True. So yeah, that can be adjusted as well. Not much else to really say about that. We can also throw an outline.
Change the
But
color
that's
would
black,
probably-
so
yeah.
that's not going to look all that awesome.
Cyan.
Cyan. That
There
is
we
the
go.
first thing to always run out on my printer for whatever reason. So again, let's remove the backdrop. And you can see we've gotten a little dynamic. So that being said, this is a very plain sort of text box operation here. I am happy to say that we will be seeing a pretty significant change to the text properties in the next version of ScreenFlow. That's ScreenFlow 7 that should be coming out.
Don't tell anybody
later
anything about that.
this summer.
One day, guys, one day we will have a new version of ScreenFlow.
Yeah.
But there are a couple things that I saw here that I think might be interesting and things that I use when I'm using the text box. If you find that these aren't the right sizes for you or the font not exactly what you're looking for, in the size dropdown, you can scroll down and there's this handy dandy little button, font panel, and I can bring this in. And now I have an unbelievable control. I can input a manual size if I want. I've got all this different family of fonts, and it just a collection of font, and then a family of font, and then the typeface, and you can go down and kingdom and all of those things, how you classify Homo sapiens, different types of families. I don't even know what some of this stuff does. Oh, this is underlining and cross through and text color, and you can do a gradient. And this, geez, I'm not even sure what some of these things do. Oh, this would be shadow. Thank you very much. And
you're welcome.
Yeah. And so this is a really helpful box if you don't find the options that you need in all of this stuff here. And there is a secondary way to add color. You can do image or gradient. Image is a bit ridiculous. Let's do this. All right. So what we've done here is instead of a color, we chose an image. And now you can see that if we make this a lot bigger, you can see that our text box now has this candy corn as its color in the image there, which is pretty ridiculously awesome. I have yet to find a practical application for this feature, but I guarantee it's out there somewhere.
Sure.
But then we also have gradient, and this can get a little bit tricky because it's hard to know exactly how to set it up. But if you click on, there's two different ways to click on this box. You can click on the bottom of the box or the top of the box and change what side is what. So if we want red on the top, we should be able to click on the bottom now and change it to green. And now you can get a gradient of colors within your text box, which makes it, look like that.
Yeah.
Green and red like Christmas.
Customized gradients.
Yep. And then if we make a really nice cyan outline, it looks terrible. This is a horrible color combination. And then the same thing goes for your backdrop. You can change the color of the backdrop, I believe.
You can.
Can you do a gradient on that?
Yes.
Sure.
Click on the solid color.
Oh, yeah,
Drop
of
down,
course.
image
Image
fill.
fill is what you
So
can
you
do.
can throw an image in the back.
Oh, gosh. That's real good now. That's looking real good. So you can also add that, change the size of it, and it will be stuck to it. So scale to fit? No, let's stretch. There we go, guys. That's the title. This is the title slide to my new web series called Lucas the Candy Corn.
In the heat.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
is now melted.
So, to tell you the truth, everybody,
That is it.
that is the extent of what we have today. It's just these two boxes. The key things to remember are when you create a text box or a annotation, they become their own piece of media. And what that means is that I can, here, let's move this ugly annotation box out of the way. I can add a video action to this now. And I can, let's say, move it down to the bottom corner and shrink it a little bit. And now, just like with any other piece of media, I can animate my text. And that's really nice if you want to use ScreenFlow almost as like a PowerPoint kind of thing, and you want your text to fly in from. Actually, let's keep it here at the beginning and have it fly in from off the screen. Zoom, there we go. There's our next piece of information. And so you can do that with all of your different elements and all of your different text boxes, and then you can get one of your here, let's go like this. I want this to circle around and be a little bit smaller. So there you go. Now I can bring in my text and focus people's eyes on it. That's how the annotation and text work together. So with them being individual media assets, you can add effects to them, which is really helpful, and you can change all of the parameters.
Right.
Just double check nobody's asked any questions.
I have, and we don't have any questions thus far.
All right. If that means no questions, that means we're going to probably just cut it here. It was a quick and easy, short one today. But we have now finished all the properties tabs in ScreenFlow, and the future of the ScreenFlow show, ScreenFlowLive, is probably going to be slightly different. We might get a little bit more complicated, go into more tricky things like doing some complex editing. Maybe we'll have some guests on. We have some thoughts about the future. So whatever those might be, we will let you know. But for now, don't forget we do have this webinar tomorrow. And next month, sorry everyone, next month we will be doing another one of these ScreenFlowLive on the first Wednesday, which is
of every month.
Do you happen to know what day that? Let me check my calendar real fast, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like it's going to be August 2nd. We will be doing another ScreenFlowLive. So we will see you guys all on August 2nd, if not tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We have 2 questions on YouTube.
Ooh.
This is very helpful. You're welcome, Gary Scott. We're trying to be helpful. I know today wasn't a ton of content, but we're going to continue. And if you have more questions, you can join the webinar. We're going to see if we can get those questions to us from YouTube, because we forgot we were streaming on YouTube and don't have the comments up here. So
We do not.
Deborah Lee and Trevor, hook us up.
Paste them into the ScreenFlow Facebook.
Or just hand me your computer that has the comments on it. That's
Shazam.
perfect. Okay. Hey guys, what's the best way to export audio only? WAV file, at least 44.1 kilohertz and a 24-bit would be perfect. Well, let me show you exactly how to do that. Or Abdul will show you exactly how to do that.
So you can either go to your export, and we don't have any audio in here, unfortunately. But if you were to choose Web High and customize that, and then simply uncheck the video portion, you're going to get AAC audio, not WAV, but an AAC format. And the other option we have is an AIFF file, which would be the lossless audio only. So not a WAV, but that is how you get audio only exports when there's video present.
And if you go back to the Web High real fast.
Yep.
Even when you take the video off and choose your 44.1, which is what you had said, and 256, you wanted 24-bit. This is kilobits, so I guess that's close enough. But anyways, when you say OK here, you're still going to get an MP4, which is not an audio-only file, so you might have to do some conversions. I think you can even do it in iTunes.
Right, and you can, and it's also just an audio file, so you could essentially just change the extension to AAC. Apple's going to say, are you sure? You're going to say, yeah, I'm sure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Can you do that from here and just go?
No.
You have to export.
You can
first
name
as
it
an
whatever you
MP4.
want. It'll be a .mp4 at the end of the export, but
Okay.
you should be able to change that extension manually.
Cool. So that's the question there for that. And then the next person says, hi, is it possible to save a text box and use it again in another video, for example, a watermark?
You can save a text box in a project. We don't quite have a means to have like a place to house all sorts of assets for ScreenFlow that is global, if you will. But you can save just a simple text box in a project of its own. Call that project reoccurring text box, something of that
Actually,
nature.
what I tend to do in when I work with something and I need multiple assets in the same projects over and over again is I create a ScreenFlow project that, let's say these are all 4 individual things that I use on a regular basis. I will just go like this, and then save it as my, tutorial series asset project. And within this, I can just come in and be like, oh, I want this super perfect annotations clip in all of my things. So I can now just Command C and then go into a new document. Actually, let me just show you how easy that is. Open up a new ScreenFlow document and just put it in there. Change the background to white again. And now I've been able to just copy and paste it in. So that's probably the best way to save it. Just have one asset document that's full of all the things that you use on a regular basis.
Indeed.
All right, that looks like all of the questions that we had on both platforms. I'm trying to use this mouse on that computer, which doesn't work like that.
It's not going to work.
But yeah, guys, tomorrow, even more questions will be answered if you want to sign up for that webinar. But don't worry if you can't make it, because we always host our webinars, and you can check it out at a later date. I assume we'll have a ton of questions. So with that, I'm Lucas.
I'm Abdul.
And we will see you guys next month. Thanks for coming. Peace.